Okay, it says I'm live. I don't know if I'm live. Let me know if I'm live. And good morning. How is everybody? We've got Dick here. We've got Peter. We've got D. Lee. We've got Franny. By the way, hang on. Get rid of the chewing gum. Franny, I did watch Curse of the Queer Wolf. I did watch it about a week and a half ago. It's a mad little film. I didn't know it was a Mark Pirro movie, but I watched it, and yeah, the idea of being bitten by a transvestite and turning into a gay boy in a full moon is kind of fun. So I've finally done it. Yep, see, Friday says woo. Ralph's here as well. 4 sales here. The gang has assembled. We've got 9 people so far. There's going to be more. Lots of stuff to talk about this time. After I have a sip of coffee, of course, because there we go. Coffee's done. So, weather report. The weather here is 13 degrees and cloudy. We're starting to head into the nasty season. So, give me a weather report where you guys are, and we'll figure it out. I know Peter's in South Australia. Dick missed the beginning of the story due to ads. Which story? What was I saying? I don't know. Anyway, it's my birthday on Friday, so I got that to celebrate. Got the nephew down as well, so he's going to be here for the birthday. Billy, the 16-year-old nephew, he's coming down. It's free public transport, so we're going to rarely see him while he's here. But lots and lots of stuff happening, even though it is shitty season. For those of you who haven't caught up, the state of Victoria has announced free public transport across the state in the month of April. They're doing it because a couple of dickheads blocked the Straits of Hormuz and shit's happening there. But there's free public transport across the state of Victoria, and I've been traveling. Yep. Oh, yeah, I'll watch Curse of the Quill. Yeah, thank you, Franny. Yucky da. Lee's here as well. So lots and lots of people. Cool. So, yeah, it's a movie called Curse of the Queer Wolf, which is on Tubi, and which is kind of low budget weirdness. And Franny has been asking me to watch it for over a year now. And I finally watched it, and you should watch it. It's a bit of silly fun. It's low budget. It's kind of weird, but Franny loves it. And Franny, being a Patreon supporter, I thought I would honour her by doing that. Lee is officially a Green Party candidate in the upcoming Senate elections. Good luck with that. I hope it goes well for you. Just don't get corrupt. Just don't kind of do like Robert Redford in The Candidate. 52 degrees, whatever that is, and mostly sunny in southwest Connecticut. Peter's 14 and cloudy, coaxing a huntsman into a jar for relocation. Yeah, that's what it is to be Australian. People get freaked out by huntsmen, but they're the most placid spiders around. They'll go away from you rather than try to attack you, even though some of them get like that big. The biggest one I saw with the legs was about that big. But I touched it. I'll tell you the story. I was house sitting for some friends up in the Blue Mountains, west of Sydney. And they had a light switch for the outdoor light, which was just outside the back door. So at night time, reach for the switch and feel something hairy. And it was a spider, this big, with the legs, a huntsman. So me and Mr. Huntsman kind of got along. I brushed him away, I think, with the back of a paperback novel. And he ran up the wall, and I got to turn the light on and all that kind of thing. It was before the days of convenient cameras, so I didn't take a photo of it. But it did freak me out a little bit because you don't really expect to feel something hairy when you reach for a light switch. But the rule with huntsmen is leave them alone. They keep down mosquitoes and other annoying insects. They're part of the natural environment, and they're photogenic as fuck. So you just leave big spiders alone. Polling looks really good, says Lee. I promise not to get corrupt. Good. That's the thing, and the thing is, it's a subtle thing too. The forces of evil can be subtly, but just look after yourself, and I wish you all the luck in the world. D. Lee says Viktor Orban has conceded in Hungary. For those that are following, yeah, that's good news too. That the people are saying the way to get the bad people to lose an election is to get JD Vance to go over there and promote them. Lee says, my friend's son is a tradie in Australia. He sent a few pictures of huntsmen. It's hard note from me. They're harmless. It's like most snakes, even the venomous ones. There's only like 1 or 2 venomous snakes in Australia that are aggressive at all. And they're all in North Queensland, and I don't live there. So for the most part, you give them their space. You've got to treat wildlife with respect wherever you are. If you do that, you're fine. Having said that, we've got species that are native to other parts of the world that got introduced. And I was reminded yesterday because, excuse me, foxes are an introduced species here. You can shoot a fox because it's an introduced species that kills a lot of native species. It should not have been here except for some dickheads in the 19th century wanted to go fox hunting in Geelong, so they imported foxes and let them loose in Western Victoria. So they're a menace. And I saw a roadkill fox for the first time in a while. Yesterday, in fact. And I kind of went, okay, that's wild. But yeah, foxes are an introduced species here. We have a different relationship to introduced species than we have to native species. Franny says, we only have the adder and it's not aggressive at all. Yeah, you leave them the hell alone. Adam says, I'm an arachnophobe, so it will give me a heart attack and thus harmful. Well, that's you can desensitize yourself from phobias. And I always think that phobias are there to be overcome. They're there to teach us how to deal with fear. And it's not a popular opinion, but it is the way I manage things. When I'm scared of something, I try to desensitize myself to it. That probably comes from my abusive upbringing. But yeah, so let's start talking about stuff we're talking about. Mario Adolph died, the German actor Mario Adolph. Not everybody knows him. He was 95, so he had a good run. But Mario Adolph was an actor I really, really liked. You got to see a movie called The Italian Connection. It has turned up on free streaming services at various times. And Mario Adolph, who was a big, beefy guy, fantastic actor too. He had a long career. But in The Italian Connection, Mario Adolph plays a guy called Luca Canali, who's a pimp in Milan. And the local mafia, somebody in the local mafia, fingers him for having killed someone that he didn't kill. And so they get in a couple of hitmen from US mafia, played by Woody Strode and Henry Silva, to take out Luca Canali, the character Mario Adolph plays. He has a wife and a kid. He has a complex relationship with them. And they go for Canali. Canali goes totally bull in a china shop. He kills people. He runs them over with cars. He takes out everybody that's sent against him, including these 2 mafia hitmen from from Las Vegas. It's an incredibly crazy action film from the 1970s, and you got to see it. Directed by Fernando De Leo. The Italian Connection is just mad film, and it gave me a love of Mario Adolph, giving us a kind of not a complex character, but an implacable character. Really good actor. Sorry he's dead. Adam says, I was sad Mario died, such a larger-than-life block. Yeah. And he says, and Adam says, Italian Connection is the best Italian crime film of that period. I agree. Yeah, just leaves Barbara Boucher from the principal cast. Barbara Boucher was beautiful. Not a great actress, but stunningly beautiful. But yeah, I like Mario Adolph. A lot of people thought he was Italian because he had Italian heritage, but he was actually a German. Go figure. So I thought I don't usually do memento, like obituaries for people. But Mario Adolf being such an iconic character, I thought I'd do a little bit for him because why not? Adam says, I'm mixing up Milano Calibro. Yeah, I've got the Fernando Del Leo collection, which has got all of those on DVD. I could upgrade, but I don't think I want to at this stage because I'm kind of happy with the version I've got. It's sharp enough on my TV. Yeah, so that happened. Mario Adolf died. Viktor Orban got kicked out. The world is 50-50 on that. But then the Artemis II mission happened. Artemis II swinging around the moon for the first time in over half a century. Yeah, Adam says Luciana Paluzzi was in the Italian Connection. Yeah, she was. Beautiful actress. Yeah, so I watched a lot of footage of Artemis II. 4 people, a Canadian and 3 Americans, 3 guys and a woman, circling around the moon for 10 days. Sorry, got a blocked up nose. Lee says, Artemis II brought a tear to my eye. It did. And the thing is, Artemis II for me, and let me know whether you agree, was the most political NASA mission ever because the zeitgeist of the politics in the US, can I have some water? I'm not sure what's happening here. The political zeitgeist in the US is hairy-chested, war drum thumping. We all know that. We all know how that goes. But mirroring that, the Artemis II mission, 4 people who really, really like each other, who get on incredibly well, doing the most complex job in the world. Trump's job is not as complex as the job of keeping a spaceship going in space, doing all the science, doing all the stuff, doing social media like champs. The social media that the Artemis II crew did was god tier good. There was even moments of accidental wonderfulness, like they're doing a live stream from space. They're doing a live stream from 400,000 kilometers away. And a big jar of Nutella floated across the screen by accident because they hadn't tied it down. And people went, shit, I want some space Nutella. And there were lots of good stuff. They went around the backside of the moon and they got to name some craters and some features on the moon. And one of the astronauts' wife had died a few years ago. And they named one of the craters Carol after her. And they didn't tell him until they announced it. And just the love and the fellowship among the astronauts. There were lots of hugs. There were lots of moments of grace in the Artemis II mission. And it was in direct opposition to the narratives coming up politically from America. So in that sense, it's an incredibly political space mission just by being and demonstrating the best aspects of being a human, and also for 3 of them, the positive masculinity. That stuff is dead set Star Trek future stuff. And I really loved it. And I think that zeitgeist that they put out really has affected a lot of people. Forsyth says, a life-changing experience for all 4 astronauts, no doubt about it. Absolutely. And Lee agrees, absolutely. Clear parallels with Nixon being president during Apollo 11. Yeah. How does crying in space work? It just builds up around your eyeballs and you've got to mop it up. Lee says, Nutella will be dining out in that advertisement like Amiga watches. Yeah, and it wasn't intended. They had stashes of peanut butter and Nutella and little treats for themselves. And why the hell not? And this one just broke loose. And everybody's going, why haven't you opened the Nutella yet? Because it's a full jar. And, the self-control shown by those astronauts is amazing. Peter says, Artemis II was excellent. Social media and official coverage was top tier. And the great thing, too, and this is another thing that really buzzed me, Well, there are two things. First one is mission control was about 60% women, including the boss of mission control. Women in STEM and women doing technological stuff. Fantastic. It wasn't all guys in short sleeve shirts and ties smoking cigarettes the way it was during the Apollo missions. The tide has turned there, and women are running space. The second thing that blew me away, I watched the re-entry footage live because why the hell not? I'm retired. And they had live footage out of the window of Artemis II as they were coming into re-entry until they had the media blackout where the ionizing gases around the spaceship blocks the signal. And I got to see a spaceship coming down towards Earth. The clouds were starting to be three-dimensional and coming into re-entry until that media dropout. That blew me away. That's real life shit of people re-entering the atmosphere of Earth, and they're streaming it live to me. It looked fantastic. It was such a buzz. It was incredible. And then they went to a simulation of what was actually happening. But they actually live streamed the start of re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. And my tiny little space boy brain was blown. It really, really hit for me. Friday says, I was born a few months before we landed on the moon. I didn't imagine as a kid that it would take so long to go back. Yeah, that's a problem. And I am Megalord says, POTUS talking hockey and the Canadian was cringe. Yeah, but everything that guy does is cringe. He's got dementia. He's being puppeted by grey eminences behind him. We all know that. Lisa, have you seen For All Mankind? First couple of seasons are excellent alternate history of space race. Yeah, I have seen the first season and part of the second. Haven't watched the rest yet, but I'm probably going to at some stage. But this is like real life stuff, and I loved it. And the special effects were on point. Hang on, I dropped something. But yeah, Artemis was such a groovy thing because, hang on, my horns are crooked, because of that positivity and that sense of the best aspects of being a person were on display all through that. And I totally love that. I'm there for that. D. Lee says, I was a boy during the moon landings, fond memories. Yeah, I didn't actually see them live. I was being driven on a school holiday from Sydney up to a place called Warren in the middle of New South Wales. We heard it on the radio, and I didn't see the footage till years later. But I got a newspaper. I didn't keep the newspaper, but we got the newspaper and kept it. And it was amazing. And we listened to it on the radio driving across New South Wales. Adam says it was a drop in the right stuff. I think the right stuff was totally different than Artemis II, with all respect, because the right stuff was about swinging dicks doing things. It was a macho test pilots turned astronaut thing. This is something very different than that. This is inclusive. This is people who emotional intelligence is up here. This is people who work incredibly hard for decades to get where they are. And where they are is the focus of the world. The right stuff, part of Tom Wolfe's writing of the right stuff was to demonstrate that these guys were exceptional, but they were also swinging dick test pilots. Lee says, I love the dish. Yeah, the dish is cool. Yeah, Australian Relay Station played the Q Park. Yeah, I've been to parks. I've been to the radio telescope of parks a couple of times. And it is a big dish. It's in the kind of south middle of New South Wales. I could drive there in, I think, about 6 hours. And the parks is also an interesting place because they have an Elvis festival every year. And all the Elvis impersonators get on the train to go to parks. It's a weird thing. But, the Parks Radio Telescope, crucial to the communication with the moon landings, and secondly, with the Artemis mission. It's still going and still relaying telemetry and other things. But yeah, blew me away, Artemis 2. I'm waiting for Artemis 3, which is going to be another swing around. Artemis 4 is a moon landing. Sorry, 4 is a moon landing with 2 astronauts, which is going to be wild. It's going to blow everybody's mind. The moon landing denialists are going to have to sit in the naughty corner for a while. Hi, Deb. How you doing? Kitsum Cat has to go to the vet early for dental work. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Deb's here down in Nibbaluna. What's the weather like there, Deb? What if Cruise makes his shot space film? Should we let him spin off? Look, if Cruise does, the thing is, there's 2 kinds of space travel. There's Artemis 2, doing weird shit, and there's the billionaire space travel, which is basically shooting up in the air, coming straight down. There's no delta V. There's no going into orbit. It's basically going up, coming down. It's an elevator ride that costs a lot of money. It's the kind of thing you send fading pop stars like Katy Perry on, because it's not required for them to know anything about space. They're basically going on the world's most expensive elevator ride. That's what Musk is doing. That's what Bezos is doing. It's nothing like real space travel. Forsyth says, I've been to the meteor crater in Arizona. What an incredible sight. Yeah, we got meteor craters all over Australia. Wolf Creek, of course, being the most notorious one. Up at the top, I think it's the top of Western Australia. Dealey says, they won't be able to pin that one on Stanley Kubrick. You're right, absolutely, they won't. Deb says, weather is bloody cold, currently 10 degrees, and I can't see Kunyani, Mount Wellington. Yeah, I know you've had snow up there so far. My friend Kerry down in your part of the world posted a couple of photos of the mountain. That mountain, by the way, if you can get to see Kunyani when you're in Hobart, it's just basically in the suburbs. They've got this enormous mountain. Deb can tell us how tall it is, but you drive up the mountain to the top of Kunyani, and it's a totally different climate. I went there in November, and it was quite warm in Hobart. You go up there, and suddenly it's winter again. Crazy that it's right on the outskirts of a fairly major city. So, yeah, so basically, anybody who doesn't believe that Artemis II is real and that these people did something extraordinary going further from the Earth than anybody has ever got in human history. Mind-blowing in the best possible way. And I love that. I am totally there for more of that. I want somebody to take a little model of the Starship Enterprise and fly it across the screen. But yeah, it's the good news story of the week, I think, apart from the Victor Orban thing. Artemis, I was really worried about the re-entry too. I watched it and they had the blackout. It was a perfect re-entry and landing, by the way. No notes for anybody on that. But when they're coming in and they're sitting with 3,000 degree heat under their asses, that's a fraught thing. And I was really worried until they re-established contact and the drogue parachutes went off and then the big parachutes went off and they landed, and then they had to go and do about an hour of prep before they could get them out of the capsule. All that stuff. I am Megalod says, past my bedtime. Happy birthday. Bye for now. Thank you. Thank you for being part of this. Carol says, we had a similar experience going up Mount Snowdon in Wales for our honeymoon. Really warm down the bottom, bloody freezing at the top. Yeah, I had the same thing. I took the train up, and the train couldn't go all the way because of snow, but we got up to the most of the way level on Mount Snowdon. Adam says, happy birthday. The birthday's on Friday, but I'm going to be doing stuff with Sal and the nephew for my birthday. Don't know what. And then on Saturday, we're going over to my in-laws' place because my sister-in-law, Kaz, had her birthday last week. So we're having a joint birthday party there. It's going to be full on. And it's also the happy birthday because it's the year of sharing. Because at this birthday, I'm turning 69, and 69 is about sharing. Carol says, certainly didn't hear anything about Artemis until April 1st. So I thought it was an April Fool's at first. That's the unfortunate thing, but that's where the window for doing it right was. Ian Megalord, long story. Ta-da! Sorry, Ian, my apologies. Have a good night. So I'm going to be doing lots of stuff this week. And I've got to get some videos done before the nephew turns up tomorrow so that I've got coverage until we throw him back on an aeroplane. So there's going to be that. One of the things I was thinking of doing, he and I always go and see a movie together. It's our ritual. I was thinking of taking him to the one drive-in left in Melbourne, the Coburg Drive-In. And we might go and see a movie there. I've got a bookmark, so I'm going to talk to him about it because he's 16. He can be part of the decision-making process. And he picked the last two movies, which I didn't particularly love, but, you do it as a bonding thing with your nephew. And so this time it's my turn. And I'm going to pick a movie at the drive-in. If he agrees, if he wants to sit in a car with me for 2 hours, we will go to the drive-in to see a movie. If not, we'll find something else. I'm kind of flexible on that. And that's one of the things that's very cool is him and I can negotiate things. So we're going to be doing that. What I'd like to do is start him on a physical media collection. But I'm going to have to talk to him about that, whether he wants that or not. Because I don't just want it to be me imposing my passions on him. I want it to be part of his decision. So he and I are going to have a discussion. And things like when I get duplicate copies of things because Imprint or Umbrella send me a new copy of something, I can then pass it on to him if he chooses to do that. And again, that is provisional. So what have people been watching? Let's open up discussions on that. What have people been watching? So I'm going to do my sniffy thing again. Deb says, happy birthday for Friday. Thank you, Deb. You're going to be saying happy birthday to me on Facebook anyway. But it's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time with it. I haven't decided what I'm going to actually do on my birthday, though. Sal wants to take me out for dinner, and I'm trying to work out where I want to go for dinner. So we've got some choices. There's a good gastro pub in Werribee. There's lots of good Indian places nearby. Have I told you about the food truck court? It's less than a kilometre from my house. They've got a food truck place called Eat Street, less than a kilometre from my house. And there's 15 Indian food trucks there, all different Indian cuisines. And you can just go down there any night of the week. It's always rammed and get the best Indian food in Melbourne. And nobody outside the district knows about it. Adam says, haven't been watching much. Saw Send Help and was perfectly fine. Gross out psycho comedy. Yes, Sam Raimi. I want to see Send Help. And I will see Send Help. But at the moment I haven't. Friday says, I showed my friends The City of Lost Children and they loved it. Unfortunately, it was the English language version. So I picked up the French language version on DVD. Well, France is only down the road and across a puddle from you guys anyway, so it must be easy to pick them up. Carol says, watched episodes of The Krypton Factor from 1989 as ITV is celebrating 70 years in the UK. Cool. I've been watching things. Surprisingly enough, I've been watching things. I've been watching more stuff than I've been watching movies, to be honest with you. By the way, tomorrow or today, later today, I'm recording a video, and I'll give you a sneak preview of what I'm doing it about. He said, getting dumb shit organised here. Got a whole bunch of Imprint things to review here. And the bottom one's back to front. So I'm going to be reviewing those tomorrow. Carol says, I'm having surgery next Sunday. We'll be off work for 2 weeks. Can catch up on some films. I hope it goes well. Whatever it is. I hope it's minor, but I hope it's going well, Carol. Look after yourself. Friday says, been watching Paradise and Monarch and For All Mankind. D. Lee says, I've been reading Scenes from Revolution by Mark Harris. Excellent book about the 5 nominees for Best Picture in the 1967 Oscars and how they got made. Really good for film fans. I've read that. And particularly things like Dr. Dolittle. Mad production in Dr. Dolittle. It's just totally crazy. Adam says, R.I.P. Angela Pleasance as well. I love Symptoms and The Godsend. Yeah, Donald Pleasance's daughter, Angela, died at the age of 84. Forsyth says, I've been watching the 58-59 TV series Mike Hammer. Well into the second season now, loaded with guest stars, guns and pretty girls, great entertainment. That's the one with Darren McGavin, isn't it? I've got a couple of those on VHS. Carol says, it's minor surgery for carpal tunnel, in and out in a day, but can't use my hand for 2 weeks, so no work as I use a PC. Look after yourself, Carol. I nearly had hand surgery once for a ganglion in this hand. And in fact, I took time off work, went down for the day surgery, and the surgeon looks at it and goes, no, you don't need to have it. And so I have 2 weeks off. I didn't get the hand surgery. So that's it. Peter said, watch 3 war movies in the lead up to Anzac Day, The Great Escape, The Enemy Below, and Hacksaw Ridge. Directed by Mel Gibson. I liked it. Yeah, Mel Gibson, of course, is problematic. You probably need to watch Gallipoli and a few other things like that as well. But I'm not doing the war thing at the moment. I'm still jazzing on Artemis II, so I may watch some episodes of Star Trek or something like that. What have I been watching? Let's kind of get back on track here. What have I been watching? I did binge a silly series, which is on Stan here in Australia, called The Miniature Wife, which has Matthew McFadden and Elizabeth Banks in it. It's a story of a goofy scientist played by Matthew McFadden, who's got a really problematic relationship with his wife. They've got a daughter who's a teenager. He works for an arsehole tech guru played by Ronnie Cheng. And he kind of sort of on purpose accidentally shrinks his wife down to 6 inches tall. And he shrinks a whole bunch of other stuff and puts her in a dollhouse. So she's got a coffee maker that works. She's got a fridge that works. She's got food and everything. But she's in this dollhouse. And he's trying to negotiate with this corporate wanker played by Ronnie Cheng. It's a silly series, but it's got really good special effects. Yes, it is a very much a feminist story. And it runs 10 episodes when it could have been 5. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't fantastic. None of the characters are likable, which is kind of interesting. But if you want to see it, see it. But investing in 10 episodes of that pissed me off just a little bit. I remember Ronnie Cheng once. I said hi to him. I was going in for an interview in ABC in Melbourne, in the booths, in what they call the TARDIS, the booths where you talk to other ABC officers. And I was doing a movie thing. And Ronnie Cheng was in there. Impeccably dressed guy. Very friendly. Itchy ear. Carol says, yeah, we don't do much for ganglions now unless it's bothersome. Used to hit them with a book. Yeah, I heard that, but I wasn't going to do that. The reason I had the ganglion was I was showing off and punched a punching bag. Hit it pretty hard. Hurt my wrist more. Deb says, I watched Crime 101. Really enjoyed it. Game night was silly fun. And good luck, have fun and don't die. Very silly. Plus a lot of old horror movies in season 7 of The Rookie. Yeah, with Nathan Fillion, of course. D. Lee watched Robert Altman's MASH the other day. The behaviour of lead carriers toward Houlihan doesn't sit well. Yeah, it's really abuse, which is not good. But so yeah, I watched The Miniature Wife. Can't really solidly recommend it. If you're interested in it, you'll watch it. If not, it's very mid, let's say. Started watching The Boys season 5 because I like The Boys. Like the grossness of the superhero stuff. Loved it when the guy with the giant prehensile dick got done because he was an asshole. Yeah, it's really good. And Anthony Starr playing Homelander. really fantastic acting in that series. He is an incredibly complex character, fantastically underrated actor. He really does deliver the goods, and I think to a certain extent the boys hangs on how good he is as compared to Carl Urban, who is just doing like Cockney tough man playing Billy Butcher. I do like people like Jack Quaid in it. Good series. I want to see where it goes. This is the last season. In some way, they're going to deal with Homelander in this season. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, gross out humor. It directly talks about American politics in a satirical way and a way that punches up, which is always good. But I'm really enjoying that. Carol says, thank you all for the kind wishes. Bit nervous, but it's got to be done. You'll be fine. Worst comes to worst, you get a really cool hook instead of a hand. The Boys is headed by two New Zealanders, says Dealer. Yep, Anthony Starr and Carl Urban are both Kiwis. They're both from the Shaky Islands. But then so is Russell Crowe. But yeah, I do like The Boys, and I'm enjoying season 5. So watch that. I'm watching Monarch Legacy of Monsters. I think it's on season 3, with both Kurt Russell and his son Wyatt playing the same character in different time areas. We got a little bit of a Godzilla thing, which is kind of cool. Lots of kaiju, lots of timey-wimey stuff, particularly when they go to Axis Mundi, which is the kind of underworld where the kaiju live. It's working. The acting beats are good, and the plot beats are good, particularly with Kurt Russell's character. And it's recommended. I like Monarch Legacy of Monsters. I think it's doing well, more so than you'd expect from a series. It's basically about big monsters destroying cities and beating each other up. The fact that they've focused it down on the human aspect of that world works. It also helps with the budget because making kaiju is expensive. But hitting the human character beats and showing like the 70 or 80 year history of Monarch and how it's trying to deal with kaiju really works. I think it's underrated. It's a little underachiever there. People aren't really noticing it, but the acting chops are there. So I've been watching that. Let me just get something here for you. So the other thing is, which is really cool, Daredevil Born Again Season 2 is now being released piecemeal by Disney Plus. I like Daredevil. I like the Daredevil world. And they actually dragged Daredevil away from Netflix when the Netflix Marvel deal died. They dragged it over and put it in as part of the Disney Plus Marvel television thing. Charlie Cox came over. Vincent D'Onofrio playing Kingpin came over. Fantastic acting, fantastic action set pieces, fantastic world building, let's say. And again, it's a very overtly political series. It really does give us something to think about there. You don't have Zoran Mandani playing the mayor of New York. You have Wilson Fisk, Kingpin, running New York like a fascist state. And that is incredibly good. And Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are friends in real life. And watching them play antagonists and playing off each other is really fun to see. I love it when actors are bringing their A game to things, which technically you kind of cash a check for. Superhero narratives aren't always known for their incredibly nuanced acting. But things like The Boys and things like Daredevil Born Again really deliver the goods. And I've got something for you. I'm going to post a link in chat for Vincent D'Onofrio talking about his career and talking about his process as an actor. I watched all of this and it's fascinating. So bookmark this, grab that bookmark I just sent, and you can watch it later because D'Onofrio is really, really good at explaining the way he approaches being an actor. And I really love that kind of stuff. I like seeing behind the curtain. I like seeing actors suddenly showing us who they are and how they do what they do so well. And D'Onofrio talks about all sorts of things. He talks about Full Metal Jacket. He talks about all of the things in his career that really mattered. And I just love the way there's an incredibly complex process behind, creating a character and the way they do it and the way they maintain it if they're doing a series. Just amazing stuff. Are we getting ads or has the chat frozen? Or are you mesmerized by me? No ad, just says Franny. Yep, we're there, says Adam. Good. That's good to know. Proof of life is always a good thing. Entranced and attentive, says Peter. Oh, shucks. Has anybody seen my last video on the Travel Channel where I went up to Echuca? Because I want to talk about that for a little bit. Because that was a day. It was Thursday, and because of the free travel in Victoria, I went from the south of Victoria here in Melbourne all the way to the north of Victoria in Echuca by train. And it cost me nothing because of free travel. But it was a hell of a day. And so here's what happened. I went up there. I'll start off with the trip to the station. The buses weren't running as early as I needed to get to the station to go to the other station where the train goes from. So I bit the bullet and booked a cab and had a really good cab driver called Khalid. And we started talking. It was like a 15-minute cab ride. And we started talking. And he told me about his life. And Khalid was an American citizen about 30 years ago. And I'll talk about that in a moment before so. But yeah, Khalid was an American citizen about 30 years ago. And he left America and migrated to Australia. Implication being he did it after 9/11 because he's a Muslim. And he got here and his wife got pregnant and had a premature baby. And they were really worried about the baby. The baby was in ICU for a long time. She's now in university and learning how to be a doctor or something like that. And it cost them nothing for the healthcare. And they're all blown away because Australian healthcare is pretty bloody good. It's not perfect, but it's pretty bloody good. And he was amazed that he got the care and support in a new country for which he was a migrant. And now his family is giving back. He's driving cabs. His daughter is going to become a doctor. And that's kind of why we have socialized healthcare, because we lift people up so that they can lift us up in the future, and because it's the right thing to do. So that was a good story on going to the station. Forsale says, yep, I watched the travel video this morning. You were very kind to that confused young woman on the bus. It was on a train, but yeah. Deb says, okay, friends, I'm off to prepare the day. I'll catch the rest of the live stream later. Take care. Thank you, Deb, and stay warm down there. And I hope your cat's okay. So I did the trip, videoed it, had a good coffee on the way, which is good. When I got there, it was like 29 degrees and humid as hell. And I didn't hydrate enough. and I got exhausted. Yeah, sweaty and exhausted. So I didn't film the second half of the video where I was going to walk across the bridge into the state of New South Wales. I didn't get to do that because I kind of got to look after my health a little bit. And so on the way home, I took a bus from Echuca to Bendigo, the big regional city in the middle of Victoria. And then the train I took from there is rammed with people. It's people standing in the aisles. It's packed as hell because it's a public, it's like school holidays and free public transport. And so that train's rammed. I get on the train to go to Tarneit Station, which is my local station. That's rammed too. I'll retell this story because it is told in the travel vlog, but I'll do it on the live stream anyway. The train from Footscray to Tarneit's packed. And there's a young woman kind of wriggling her way up and down the aisles between people, or up and down the aisle between people. She's obviously in some kind of distress. She may have been having a mental health thing. She may have been drug fucked. But she's also trying to tie the front of her blouse, which is ripped, to try to keep her tits covered. She didn't have a bra on. And she wanders up and down the aisle. And I kind of figured, yeah, she's either self-medicating or she's in a bad way in some other way. And she does this about 4 times. There's a long way between stations on this train line, even though the trains are pretty fast. So she comes back and forth 4 times. The 4th time, she gets up near me. And I've got a shopping bag as well as my backpack because I bought a couple of things for sale. And at the top of my shopping bag is my hoodie. So I handed her the hoodie and said, listen, cover yourself up, look after yourself. She kind of barely acknowledged me, if at all, and took the hoodie and disappeared down the other end of the train and never saw her again. I got a lot of hoodies. It's not a big loss. But it amazed me that more people didn't try to help her. Some people were making sarcastic comments. But nobody really did even the thing I did to help her. And that kind of saddened me in a bit. Sometimes you got to do the right thing, and sometimes very few people do. Adam says, that all sounds very sweaty. Yeah, it was sweaty. It was very, very humid. The weather was about to break in Echuca, and in fact, it did pour down with rain. I could see the storm clouds coming through from the west. But it was really, really hot there. I should have had more bottles of water. I didn't. And I should have been more aware of my own limitations, which, of course, as we age, we can make that mistake quite easily. Carol says, Circle of Life Karma, lovely. Well, I didn't do it for karma points or anything like that. I did it because there was a necessity to help this woman out in a small way. There wasn't room to sit her down and give her some water and to try to calm her down. There wasn't any of that kind of triage you could do. But what I could do is give her something to make her less distressed, which was the hoodie. So, yeah, life is full of unexpected things. And the more you get out and about and do things, the more unexpected things happen. Adam says, I think people see a lot of sympathetic people weekly, maybe feel like being remote is a way of dealing with it. It's up to them. I mean, I'm not going to judge anybody particularly harshly, but I'm having these moments in the last few years where I see something and I've got the resources to do something and I just instinctively do it. There was a thing where I was going to the Astor Theatre to see a movie at nighttime, and I popped into a restaurant and ordered a set menu at a Singaporean-themed restaurant in Chapel Street. Cost a bit more than I thought it would. And food just kept coming. You know, I got the entrees, which were all fantastic. All the food was on point. And then I said, listen, I've got to go. Can I just stop now? And they said, we can do a doggy bag for the main course. And I'm full already. There's tons of food. So I said, okay, give me a doggy bag for the food that's left. So they give me a doggy bag for the rest of the food. And I figure I'll take it to the cinema and I'll take it home and I'll eat it later. But there was a homeless guy cleaning car windshields at the stoplights up near the Astor Theatre. And I just instinctively said, listen, here's some, I think it might have been chicken curry or something. Here's some chicken curry for nothing. Here you go. And he said, thank you, and took it. And I've been doing stuff like that a little more than I ever did. Maybe because I'm counting my privilege more and I'm kind of aware of it. And where something happens where I can do something small to help. I mean, I'm not wealthy at all. I'm quite poor. But there's moments when I can do stuff like that. And increasingly I'm doing it and not even thinking about it. Adam says, I live in London and see people doing the same on the tube. Yeah, it's problematic. And Adam says, I offer money sometimes, which is grabbed out of the hand without words, and just head off to the local dealers. Well, sometimes I do, but it's a bigger problem than we can solve, Adam, to be honest. But in this case, it was very clear what the woman needed in the moment, and it wasn't money. Adam says, I offered to buy food recently, and the guy started grabbing loads of stuff off the shelves. You tend to hoard. I mean, I've been very broke. I once was so broke I didn't have food for 5 days. And that puts you in a different headspace. Believe me, it's not something I recommend. Starvation it pares you down to animal. I was incredibly feral by the time my unemployment came through and I had money to buy food. It does make you feral, and it makes you instinctively survival geared. And it feels horrible when your body starts eating itself. Peter says, well done, Terry, very kind of you. Look, you do what you can. And I'm kind of glad that I've got to a stage where I've got a tiny bit of resources to help people. But for the most part, there are a lot of people with a lot more money who do a lot less. And I think that's the problem. Judging people in need doesn't help the people. And I'm never going to judge anybody. A lot of the people who are unhoused in Melbourne have mental health issues. And some of those mental health issues are because of people doing the wrong thing to them. Some of them aren't. Some of them are just brain chemistry going awry. And I fully acknowledge that. Some of them are neurodivergent and it's never been acknowledged or treated or even diagnosed. There's a lot of stuff out there. We do have something here called the National Disability Insurance Scheme, where people who are in need get assistance, and that assistance is paid for by the scheme. And there's a certain tranche of money that's put aside for those people. And they can get a carer, they can get a health person, they can get some resources. If they need a wheelchair, they can get a wheelchair, that kind of stuff. In fact, Sal is on the National Disability Insurance Scheme, as are a lot of people I know. We need to do more to help. That's part of what Australia is doing for that. It's a complex problem, and late stage capitalism is one of the sources of that problem. Friday says, even if I can't offer food or drink, I'm poor, so I'm not always able to. I talk with the local homeless people because so many people don't treat them like human beings who deserve respect. Absolutely. Adam says, each homeless person has a different story. I'm very sympathetic, especially when it's Baltic cold out there. Yeah, I know. To be homeless in a place like London must be nightmarish. Four Stars, there's a movie question for you. What's the name of the movie where a man discovers a scam called HQ, which ripped him off and extracts his revenge on him? That's a Statham movie. I think it's The Beekeeper. Is that the one? The Beekeeper with Jason Statham, where he walks into the call center with 2 jerry cans of petrol and goes to town on it. That's a cool movie. I like that. I think I've got it on Blu-ray. I like a good Statham action film. No problem. Yeah, so one of the other things going on here that's really cool, talking about Lego and Lego movies, which I am. There's a weird thing with criminal organizations here in Australia. I don't know what's happening elsewhere, but criminal organizations, which are always very cash heavy, they've always got a lot of cash, but turning that cash into usable money that you can put in a bank and things like that is difficult. So one of the things they're investing in with all of this cash they're getting from the drug dealers is large Lego sets. There are a lot of large Lego sets that are basically cash. They're a way of laundering cash for crime syndicates, which is kind of weird. And there's also a big thing where people are stealing Lego from Lego shops and supermarkets and department stores that are selling Lego. So if you go into, say, Target here, all the Lego is under lock and key, and you have to get somebody to unlock it, take out the Lego, lock it up again, walk you to the cash register, and put through the sale, because Lego is the new way of people getting money. Adam says Lego has a premium price. Yeah, it's amazing that they do that. I know there's a couple of Lego stores. There's one in Bondi Junction in Sydney that's pretty big. We bought Billy some stuff there. But yeah, Lego is going for crazy premium prices. I've got AFO friends, adult fans of Lego, who go to Lego conventions. In fact, one of the reasons why I was so busy in Bendigo when I was up at Echuca was there's a Lego exhibition up there, a big one, a Lego convention up in Bendigo. So yeah, I was just reading this morning. Lego is kind of a real big thing for people who are trying to monetize their money or trying to launder their money. So let's see. Same with Pokemon cards, Adam says. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of these kind of fan things are really going for a major price. Let's see what else I've been watching, because let's see. Can't talk about them. Been watching Mondo movies, like Mondo Carney, because Mondo movies are kind of weird and interesting. For those of you who came in late, Mondo movies are pseudo documentaries with voiceover about weird things going on in the world. Mondo Carney was the biggest one at the start of it. But I'm watching Mad Mondo movies, and that's strange. Friday says, you don't have the proliferation of American candy stores that we have. We've got a few of them where they basically buy American candy in bulk and flog it off at a premium price. We've seen a couple of them around, particularly in the city. So we do have a couple of them. I believe it is a criminal organization that runs American candy, from what I understand. But yeah, popular culture is being colonized by criminal organizations. You can make the argument that old school movie studios acted like criminal organizations, and that'd be a valid way of looking at it. And of course, the fact that billionaires now own studios. MGM's owned by Amazon, which is Jeff Bezos. But yeah, our popular culture, because it is popular, is really being colonized by criminal organizations. Adam says, I like Monday Carney apart from the grim bits, like the footage of fighting drunks in Hamburg. Yeah, that's a weird sequence in there. There's also somebody decapitating a bull with a giant Gurkha knife. Doesn't get as bloody as Blood of the Beast, the Georges Franju short film. But it's still pretty confronting. Carol says, here it's barber, vape shops and mobile accessory shops that do the money laundering. Yeah, vapes are now illegal here. And we're getting, there's a new study done here in Australia about vapes causing mouth cancers and things like that. And there's strong evidence that they're like putting an acid sprayer in your mouth, in a sense. But yeah, vape shops. I keep seeing footage of travel vloggers in England, particularly. Yeah, there are a fuck ton of vape shops, particularly in low socio-economic areas. That's a weird thing. Forsyth says, W.C. Fields mentions Bendigo in the 1940 movie My Little Chickadee. Bendigo is one of the richest cities in the world because it's got gold under it. There's still gold mines under Bendigo, and the tunnels go down 1 kilometre or more. There's like enormous, many, many kilometres of tunnels underneath Bendigo where they're still mining gold down there. And around in the 1850s onwards, it became one of the richest cities in the world. And there's still a whole bunch of beautiful classic buildings there. I really should do a Bendigo walking tour on the other channel and show you all of the grand classic buildings there. Ballarat's the same. They're the two cities that were started because of gold mining in colonial days. And both of them have got grandiose buildings because of that. And of course, the movie Eureka Stockade with Chips Rafferty in it is about the rebellion by the miners against the taxes being imposed by the colonial government. And that happened up at Ballarat, and there's still a kind of Potemkin village place called Sovereign Hill, which you can go to as a tourist thing. And it looks like an 1850s colonial town. And you can even go and do some gold panning there because there is gold there, but you won't pick up much. Adam says, I can't go back to Mondo films. Got it out of my system 35 years or so ago. Yeah, I'm actually watching it because I'm going to do videos, or maybe a video series at some stage, about genres that have disappeared in cinema. And Mondo movies are one of the genres I'm going to talk about. I think I'll do it as a slightly long video and just do like 10 movie genres that have disappeared. And there are more than 10. And it's kind of going to be fun putting that together. Adam says, have you dared to watch Japanese Mondo? Grimmer for sure. I watched a few Japanese Mondo movies. There was a big spate of them in the 80s where they do things like joke things where they throw somebody into the water and there was a great big whale shark in there which don't eat people. And the guy suddenly is on this platform in the water and gets thrown off and a whale shark just gums him. Peter wants to know Mondo movies. They're basically documentaries with voiceovers about weird shit that happens in the world, like weird cults and weird rituals and weird behaviors. And Mondo Cane has a big sequence of people getting blind drunk on a Saturday night in Hamburg, and they're staggering around, they're having fist fights. It's kind of like real life footage, but hyped and gross at times. Mondo Cane become a big hit. Adam says, traces of death was mainly traffic accident aftermath. Yeah, Mondo movies are very broad. There's one called Mondo Topless, which is about women topless sunbathing around the world and nudist camps and weird things like that. Well, not weird things, but things like that. There's Mondo Balordo, which is another Mondo movie narrated by Boris Karloff. All of this stuff's on Tubi. There's a whole bunch of Mondo movies on Tubi. And all you got to do is type Mondo in there and you'll get 5 to 10 of them. Adam says, drunks in Hamburg trying to get back home. Yeah. The drunks are quite sad, in fact. And it was filmed in the early 1960s. So I don't know whether a number of those people getting drunk in that movie have trauma after the war, because Hamburg was bombed. A lot of places were bombed. A lot of places were brain screwed by the Nazis as well. Patrick, happy birthday week. Thank you very much, Patrick. Where's the fart gun? I've got to reach for the fart gun. Theme tune won an Oscar. Yeah, more won an Oscar. The theme tune from Monday Carne. Patrick. That's a good one. Give you another one. Thank you very much, mate. I nearly forgot the fart gun one because I was talking about Monday movies. But yeah, I think it might be worth doing a full video about Monday movies. I'm not going to show too much of them because Auntie YouTube may get the shits with me. But Glen or Glenda could be considered a pre-Mondo movie, Peter. I mean, Glen or Glenda, it's a fantastic, fascinating movie. At the start of the discussions we're now having about gender being a continuum, not just a binary. I rewatched Glen or Glenda this year, and even though Ed Wood didn't have the vocabulary to fully explain himself, he made this very personal movie about his dressing as a woman and feeling comfortable in that role. Really at the start of a continuum. But yeah, Mondo movies are kind of a slight fascination for me at the moment. I'll probably watch Mondo Topless and Mondo Belordo, and I should get enough from that and what I've already watched in order to get a good idea of the genre. There was also another one called Women of the World, which was narrated by Peter Ustinov, which is also on streaming platforms like Tubi. Those ones will be kind of interesting to watch. I wonder what happens here. Here's the question. Favorite transgressive movie? Let's see how this goes. There's my question. Favorite transgressive movie? Not sure where this knocks off the chats. We'll go back to the live chat for that. But yeah, I remember being aware of Mondo Carne and hearing about it when I was a little kid in the 60s. But I never got to watch it until VHS days. What happened, Adam? Favorite transgressive movies? Yeah, I mean, so many of them, because that's the kind of movie I watched when I was first going after. I mean, I started work in 1972 when I was 15, and I'd go out and see movies after work, and sometimes I skipped work to see movies, and there were some really bad ones. Patrick says, would the I Am Curious films be under Mondo? Not exactly, but they're probably Mondo adjacent. Holy Mountain, says Friday. Yeah, Hodorowski, Holy Mountain, and El Topo. They're definitely transgressive movies. Adam says, started with Maniac, the 1930s version, and Reefer Madness, maybe. Yeah, those ones, those ones are more. I think Maniac's a horror movie, but Reefer Madness comes under a genre I'm going to talk about called cautionary tales or moral panic movies, where people have a moral panic about communism or drinking or alcohol or dancing or something like that, or marijuana or other drugs or premarital sex. There's a whole bunch of those moral panic movies that were titillating as well, because people like Dwayne Esper, who I think did Maniac, but people like Dan Sonny and people like that really sold those movies. Adam says it became a staple for the transgressive crowd. Yeah, Maniac, Reefer Madness is fun, and Maniac's fun. And again, these are ones you can find on Tubi. A lot of these vanished genres, you can find examples of them on free streaming services, whatever the free streaming services are where you live. You can definitely find copies of these old genres or movies that are in these old genres, which are fun. Sometimes the prints aren't great, but they're watchable. I watched Glen or Glenda. I've got a copy of Glen or Glenda, but I watched it on Tubi, and the print there is pretty good. There's a colorized version as well, which I don't think adds a lot to the game, but it's there if you want to look at it. Friday says, I love the send up of moral panic movies in Amazon Women on the Moon with Carrie Fisher. Yeah, when she's in lingerie, sitting on Mike Mazurki's knee and pointing out and going, is that Noel Coward? Yeah, those moral panic movies are hilariously good. It doesn't have to be extreme. The Final Program by Robert Fust. Yeah, The Final Program's a fantastic movie. I actually traveled 50 kilometers by train to see that when it first came out. Bela Lugosi adds a lot to Glen or Glenda, says Forso. Yeah, of course he was affected by his own drug addictions at the time. But he lent into it and sitting in that chair going, pull the strings, all that kind of thing. It just works. But I think it is basically a heartfelt movie. It is Ed Wood Jr. explaining who he is at a deeper level and not quite having the vocabulary to do it and not quite having the self-awareness to be fully literate about it, but still telling his story and telling his truth. And if you're going to pick a best Ed Wood Jr. movie, I think it's got to be this one because of that personal stake he has in it and the personal risk he took in making it. And it was at the start of us understanding and accepting diversity in human sexuality and human self-identity. I think it's an underrated movie for that reason. It's not well made. It's not particularly adept at what it's trying to do. But it got made, and he made it, and he got people to be in it. It's, I think, if you're looking at movies about queer subjects, this is definitely one of the forerunners. Friday says, I tried to buy the Final Program on VHS but couldn't afford the £120 in 1980s money. Now I have it on DVD. Yeah, I've got the DVD as well. Adam says, Ed Wood had a triple whammy with Glenn, Plan 9, Night of the Ghouls. The Burton film was wonderful. Yeah, I mean, I've got my problems with Johnny Depp, but the making of the Burton film was fun. Pricing on films has changed so much. Yeah, absolutely. It was really weird because I've got a very dodgy video on DVD of Hammer's Lust for a Vampire. And it's just come out with, I think, by Severin in like a premium 4K set, which is incredibly expensive in Australian dollars. But I did a little bit of Google Foo, and there is a Spanish Blu-ray release of Lust for a Vampire. I wanted to do the upgrade, and I had some Amazon credits on my Amazon account. So I ended up getting, and it's still waiting for it to arrive, the Spanish Blu-ray version of Lust for a Vampire. And it cost me virtually nothing. And I'm kind of pleased about that. If there is something that comes out in one of these big premium editions, the 4K, with all the bells and whistles, and you want the movie, do your searching around. You may well find a different version of it that's still good. And even though this is a Spanish release, it does have the original English audio, English and Spanish subtitles, and a Spanish dub version. You can pick which audio and which subtitles you want with it. And it's not that expensive to get. And there are still a few of them around. So that's what I'm doing. That's my money-saving idea. If you're collecting physical media, look around to see what other versions there are of things you really like. I mean, there are people who are, and I understand this, complaining about what imprint and umbrella cost to buy premium editions. One of the things imprint in particular, and umbrella does as well, is they'll put out a big collector's edition, which are often the ones I'm unboxing on the channel. And then a couple of months later, they'll put out a reasonably priced standard edition. Imprint did that with the big box set of Life Force that I showed, which is like this big in a big box of Life Force. They've now put out all the same extras in a smaller edition just on Blu-ray and 4K, which is like standard size. And a lot of people have kind of welcomed that because they wanted the movie in as high definition as they could get, but they didn't want to pay out the few $100 it cost for the big box of it, the mammoth edition. And because there was, I think that was a limited edition of 3,000, and they must have sold out because they're now doing the smaller edition to cater to the audience demand for that movie. Forsar says, Matilda May rocked that movie. Yeah, there's a lot of unclad Matilda May in that film. And I'm sure there are a number of people who don't watch past that part of the movie. Friday says, Blood on the Mummy's Tomb has just come out on Blu-ray. Yeah, Hammer's doing some nice releases. They're still a bit expensive for my tastes, but they are doing some premium releases. Adam says, I reckon Severin will do a Val Guest collection. They probably will. They'll probably do something along those lines. But Severin and Vinegar Syndrome and those kind of releasing companies are way outside my budget. And so I am kind of careful about what I get these days. Friday says there's not a Hammer release of Blood on the Mummy's Tomb. That's interesting. But it's good to, I mean, I've got Blood on the Mummy's Tomb in the Blu-ray edition that came out about 15 years ago here in Australia, which has got some good extras in it. It's not a bad pressing of it. They used a pretty good print of the film to bring it out. 15 years ago, a whole bunch of Hammer movies came out on Blu-ray editions here in Australia. And after they came out, they were selling really cheaply at JB. They suddenly got a discount and they were like $10 each for Blu-ray editions of a lot of the classic Hammer horror films. Oh, okay, Blood on the Mummy's Tomb's on 4K in that release. Yeah, I've kind of had a bit of a shift on 4K. I like having 4K because I've got a 4K TV and a 4K player. But it's not essential to me, but I kind of like it when Imprint or Umbrella send me review copies of 4K releases. I kind of like that. I watched The Magnificent Seven on 4K when Vivision, I think, or Imprint released the Magnificent Seven movies. And it was worth it because, widescreen Panavision John Sturgis Western looked fantastic. It looked really good on 4K. But I then put the Blu-ray in, and it looked almost as good on Blu-ray. Okay, the Blood on the Mummy's Tomb is Studio Canal. For Sale says, if you're watching a movie that doesn't engage you, do you stop watching it, fast forward it, or suffer through into the end of the movie? It varies, For Sale. I'm kind of strategic about what I'm buying. So if I'm buying a movie, I already know it's a movie I'm going to enjoy in some way. Sometimes if it's just something that's only been released on DVD, which sometimes happens here in Australia, I'll get the DVD at a cheaper price. I'll wait till there's a sale and take a punt on a movie. I've found some really good movies that I've talked about, particularly on Science Fiction Saturday, which I got by doing that, by taking a punt on a movie that only gets a DVD release here in Australia. Things like Vespa, I've really enjoyed. And there's another one called, I think it's Monolith, an Australian science fiction movie, only came out on DVD. I do watch if it's a movie I'm watching on streaming, I'm more inclined to stop watching it if it's just a piece of shit or if it's not to my taste, because there's no investment beyond the subscription in that game. So I do it occasionally. I don't do it as often as some other people do. Peter says, Valerie Leon as the mummy doesn't need any unwrapping in that movie in Blood and the Mummy soon. Yeah, beautiful woman. She was also in Never Say Never Again with Sean Connery, looking stunning. Peter says, also read Jewel of the Seven Stars by Bram Stoker, the book, The Blood and the Mummy Sims based. Yeah, I have read it, and I think I've got a copy of it somewhere here. Adam says, I go to the London film fairs, and Valerie Leon was in the last one. Very glam and demure. Yeah, a lot of people are much nicer than you think. And you go, okay, I understand why people leave the film industry, particularly if they're stunningly beautiful women, because the vultures were circling a lot of actresses at that stage. And it becomes, is the fucking you're getting worth the fucking you're getting for a lot of them. And there's so many women, and you see it in classic films, particularly in the 60s. You'll find a beautiful woman like Lola Albright, who was stunningly beautiful. She could sing, good actress, really fine actress. Look at her in Lord Love a Duck. But her career went nowhere because she could do everything. And the producers and studios were looking for the new young women instead of embracing a mature woman who was really, really good at everything she did on screen. A lot of that kind of stuff happened. Finally says, Valerian is in Zeta 1, a very strange movie. Is Charles Hawtrey in that movie as well? I think he is. Zeta 1 is just a bad, what the hell movie. Adam says, the Hammer reunion fair from 2017, I think was great. So many faces, but also a lot of gone. Yeah, that happens. And there's a lot of particularly good exploitation actors who were acting in the 60s and 70s. We're starting to lose them as well. And that's a bit of a tragedy. There was a video which I only caught on Threads, I think it was, by David Field, a character actor. He's probably in his 60s now. He's talking about the Australian film industry as it is now. And he said the Australian government's giving hundreds of millions of dollars supporting overseas productions that are filming in Australia, where they have big stars. The technicians and the crews get a lot of work from it. But all the actors are like the seventh person down the cast list, all the Australian actors. And his argument is, rather than spending those hundreds of millions of dollars making 5 or 6 overseas productions, invest in Australian movies and make 20 or 30 Australian movies and give everybody a go. And they will sell overseas because we do have good actors and good screenwriters and good technicians. We've got the whole bag here. But the government is investing in big overseas companies with their film investments and giving them tax breaks and throwing money at them, or throwing money at Baz Luhrmann to make a movie about a singer from the American South, rather than investing the money here to tell our stories. And I think that's a good argument to make. Franny says, Zeta 1 did have Charles Hawtrey and James Robinson Justice, and it's very bad. Yeah, it is. Peter watched The Beat Generation with Mamie Van Doren. Also features Jackie Coogan, Vampira, and Louis Armstrong. I think I've watched that, but I've got to rewatch that. That sounds like a real gas. But yeah, smaller countries like Australia. I've looked into the history of Australian film. And 1920s, Australia was doing as well as America, particularly in the silent movie era. We were making really good films. Into the 30s as well. But then state and federal governments got courted by Hollywood movie studios. And to be honest with you, there's probably a bit of a under the desk money transfer done. And so the laws changed to make it easier for foreign films, being American and English films, to be shown in Australian cinemas. And the Australian film industry collapsed in the late 30s and 40s, even though we had the technicians, we had the studios, we had everything you need to make great films. We got colonized by American movie studios. Adam says, Charles Hawtrey is also in the Terranauts, obviously a popular science fiction character. Imagine him as Doctor Who. No, because he would have, he was quite a harasser of young men. So, and he's also an alcoholic. Wouldn't have made a good Doctor Who. Friday says, there's a Friday Fisher book centered around the Australian film industry. Yeah, my sister and brother-in-law live in Maroubra and nephew, Billy, in Sydney. And I can go to the place where there used to be a massive film studio in Pagewood. It's right next to their big shopping centre, local shopping centre. And that was the centre of the Australian film industry in the 20s and 30s. It was really, really popular. And it was a major industry for Australia. And there are still a lot of good Australian movies. You can find some of them on YouTube. Things like Sons of Matthew and The Sentimental Bloke. They did a silent and the sound version of The Sentimental Bloke. A lot of good Australian movies made. And one of the first movies ever made, one of the first feature-length films, The Story of the Kelly Gang, was made in Australia, made in Melbourne, outside Melbourne. Full-length film. Adam says, yeah, Colin Baker liked to drink, as did Pertwee and Hartnell. Yeah, it didn't do them any favours. That's the interesting thing. I'm still learning about English culture. If you look at travel vloggers from England, less so from Scotland, but somewhat, travel vloggers are part of that English pub culture where it's nothing to go and have 5 or 10 drinks on a pub crawl. We don't have that here as much because the pubs are further apart from anything else. And binge drinking is self-defeating. But we get a lot of that with travel vloggers. Adam says, Tom Baker. Forsyth says, Long John Silver 1954 was the first made in Australia TV series. I have a few episodes on TV, on DVD. Absolutely, yeah. Long John Silver with, I think, Robert Newton's in it. Was kind of interesting. And there are a lot of early Australian TV series that are kind of lost now. Crawford's owned the rights to a lot of them. But occasionally they'll turn up on old VHS rips on YouTube. Yeah, Adam, the actors' disease like sports people and with gambling, yeah. We got a meow. Luna wants to go out, but I'm not letting her out. Hey, Looney. Give her a pat. Hang on. Quick Luna appearance. Hey, baby. How you doing? Now you stay here. Nope, she's going. There's your Luna appearance. She didn't want to be on screen. But yeah, I'm not letting her out. There was another neighborhood cat out there upsetting our girls. So I'm not letting them out until after I do the live stream so I can monitor them, make sure they're safe. Yep. Yeah, Luna's a good cat. She's the weather's turning cooler now, of course. So she's more cuddly. She'll turn up for a cuddle more in winter. Sometimes she doesn't like it. As the weather gets cooler and cooler, she likes a bit of a cuddle while I'm here, maybe editing a video. So if ever a video is late, there's a possibility that Luna is the reason. But yeah, I mean, there's so many good actors that I really, really liked, particularly in classic Hollywood, whose careers were diminished in a big way by drinking and also by smoking. I mean, Humphrey Bogart was 57 when he died of lung cancer. Imagine if he hadn't been a smoker and he lived into his 70s and 80s. You could have got something like Humphrey Bogart playing Noah Cross in Chinatown. Would have been a possibility. Bogart in 60s and 70s movies would have been mind-blowing if he wasn't a drinker, if he was a smoker. Carol says, time spent with cats is never a waste of time. Absolutely. Yeah, Adam, Spencer Tracy managed quite well, but it caught up with him. He also had Katharine Hepburn to look after him. Yeah, Tracy was an enormous binge drinker. I mean, there are talks about whether Tracy and Katharine Hepburn were closeted gays. I don't know, and I never will know. But if that's the case, there's probably a lot of internalized self-hatred in people who drank a lot as actors. Also imposter syndrome, all of that stuff. Adam says, well, Bogart would have been in his 50s. In the 50s, man would be king, although Gable was a bit diminished by then. Yeah. There's a movie called It Happened in Naples, which is filmed in Naples with Clark Gable and Sophia Loren. And it's noticeable that Clark Gable really liked Italian pasta because he gained about 5 or 6 kilos eating pasta when he was making that movie. And it's kind of weird to watch for that reason. Now I want pasta, even though it's breakfast time. Just that alternate universe idea of, had somebody not had bad habits, what movies would they have made in the future? And that Bogart's sensibility would have played so well in the 60s because there was a resurgence in popularity for Humphrey Bogart as his movies in the 40s and 50s hit television for a new generation in the 60s. Bogart became incredibly popular all over again. D. says, Spencer Tracy was a complicated fellow. Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic actor. I mean, watching Bad Day at Black Rock, where he does so much with so little, and he holds it all in until he doesn't. I believe the Criterion Channel has an audio commentary by the director John Sturges about Bad Day at Black Rock, and they're feeding out little bits of it on YouTube. Interesting stuff. Adam says, so many smokers, that was the worst aspect, I think. Yeah, and you can kind of play that game, which I don't recommend, where you're watching Bogart smoke a cigarette on screen. You go, is that the one that gave him cancer? You can go down that horrible rabbit hole of doing that. Adam says, Tracy is my favorite American actor, so intense but natural. Yeah. So what about modern actors? My favorite modern male actors in America at the moment are people like Paul Giamatti and Vincent D'Onofrio. And in England, it's Stephen Graham. There are some incredible actors working in this moment. And they're not all doing big projects. They're not the stars. Stars are stars, but actors who really get into the skin of a role are precious and wonderful and just a treasure to us all. But Friday says, Richard Harris, Peter O'Toole, Oliver Reed, all famous drinkers of incredibly unhealthy amounts. Yeah. And again, it's part of that drinking culture, which actors had, but also for some reason it's a part of particularly English culture, is that going to the pub all the time. Hello, Linda. She wants my attention. Hey, little muppet. Hello. Oh, you want a pat? Sorry, I'm going to have to reach down to pat her. Hey, little girl. Yeah, she's doing that because she wants to go out, and I'm not going to let her out. At least for another 26 minutes or 25 minutes. Yeah, she is a really annoying creature, because when we get up in the morning, Luna has to go out 5 or 6 times and come back in and go back out. And we don't have a cat door. We don't have a situation where it's possible to put in a cat door. So we've got to go and let her in and out. Friday says, have I read the book about them called Hellraisers? Yeah, there's actually 2 of them. I've got them both and I've read them both. It's tragic. And there's an interview that particularly Oliver Reed did with Michael Parkinson. No, with Clive James, where he comes in pissed as a newt into the interview. And Clive talks to him about it. Why do you do this to yourself? And he avoids the question, but it's asked with a lot of compassion about why do you do this to yourself? D. Lee says, lauding people like that as hellraisers isn't healthy. I agree. The books have been remaindered, so I picked them up very cheaply. Richard Burton featured in the book. Apparently he had an alcoholic crystals in his spine. Wow. Not sure about that detail. Okay. Richard Burton is my mother's second cousin. Richard Jenkins was his original name, and my mum was Jenkins. So we've done the genealogy, and he's her second cousin. Clear the sinuses again. See how noisy she is? She's crazy annoying, but lovable as well. But yeah, and just such powerful actors and actresses as well. Tallulah Bankhead, all sorts of people, and actresses, of course, are more vulnerable if they're alcoholic. Judy Garland, of course, drugs and alcohol. Whole bunch of people with incredible talents, whose talents are diminished and whose lives are shortened because of those addictions. And I'm sure there are people working now who are the same way. It's just, Forsyth says, alcohol kills emotional pain, but it's a temporary fix. Yeah, it just bottles it up and puts it over to the side. It doesn't resolve it. It doesn't deal with it. It doesn't deal with the underlying issues. Insecure people pressures the job. Yeah, possibly. I mean, Friday says, this is his last live stream. Picked up a load of DVDs recently. What have you picked up, Friday? Reed was also said to have been physically abusive to one of his wives. I can understand that. It goes along with the alcoholism, unfortunately. Friday got Dr. Dolittle, Rex Harrison, and the Robert Downey Jr. versions. Texas Chainsaw Massacre Special Edition, uncut version of booklet. The original Tobe Hooper movie, Mars Attacks, and Trans America. Cool. Tora, The Roaring Twenties, Top Hat, Hope Springs, You've Got Mail, and Addicted to Love double pack, Officer and a Gentleman, and Yanks, Hercules in New York, The Vampire Clan double pack, Martin Scorsese Presents the Blues, 7 films about the blues slap bass instructional video. You've been busy, Friday. Are you getting these new, or you're picking them up in op shops? Incredibly wide-ranging stuff. I've got Tora in our box set with a bunch of other war movies, because I used to put them out around Father's Day, which isn't my favorite holiday, to be honest. Isn't my favorite celebration. And you get like 5 packs or 3 packs of war movies to give to your father on Father's Day. Friday says, have charity shops in CX. We've got a couple of CXs here in Melbourne, but they're on the other side of the city. I really should pop around to the CEXs and see what I can find. Probably won't do it when I'm going out with the nephew, because he doesn't like long train trips, or tram trips in particular, bus trips. I tried to take him on the longest bus route in Melbourne, which takes 4 hours to get around. It goes all the way around the city. And he piked on me halfway through. Hercules in New York's a weird movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger's with a dubbed voice. It's his first starring role, and he's in it with Arnold Stang. Not a good movie, but it may be one to watch late at night. Let's see, I'll open my letterbox, see what else we'll be watching. Yeah, I'm going to post a link to my letterbox to offer Friday proof that I've watched Curse of the Queer Wolf. There's my letterbox. So Curse of the Queer Wolf is definitely there. Adam says Hercules in New York is great. It has a transgressive edge. Foreigner says, having Blu-ray The Beast Must Die, but a bit more than I wanted to pay. I showed the DVD to friends last week and they loved it. Yeah, The Beast Must Die is just such a weird. Is it Amicus film? Really odd. Yeah, I haven't been around op shops lately because Imprint, and all credit to them, sent me boxes and boxes of stuff to review. And if the channel is getting a little Imprint heavy, there's a reason. I've still got 7 more things to review, which is the next video I'm doing. And I like that they do it. And yes, it is nice to receive things and want to review it. Umbrella are also sending a bunch of stuff. They've had some delays. And Umbrella has announced that enormous box set of Universal horror movies. They're not the big ones, but they're like second tier Universal horror movies going from the silent era to the like 70s. Peter, many happy returns to Australian $20. Thank you, Peter. This one's for all of Adelaide, mate. Yeah, you're right, Adam. It is a good problem to have, getting review copies. And I'm really aware of that privilege. But this big Umbrella Universal horror box set is like there's 48 to 50 films. And the fart gun just fell down. 48 or 50 films. Enormous box set. It's been delayed because of production issues. So it is. I do have an order for it. They have told me they're sending it to me. But that one is like a big chungus of obscure Universal horror and science fiction movies. I'm waiting for that, but it has been delayed because of production errors at the manufacturing point. Drink the rest of my cold coffee. But yeah, Adam, I'm totally aware of that privilege. Dealey says the Beast Must Die is very oddly framed. Yeah, but I kind of like that. I like the fact the Beast Must Die is trying something different. That's the virtue I really appreciate in those kind of movies. Yeah, you can just make a standard horror movie, you'll probably make money on it. Horror movies always make money. But trying to do something different and trying to do a different kind of narrative in the way that the Beast Must Die does, I don't think it made money, to be honest with you. But I kind of like it, and I like the fact that they did have a go at doing something that probably nobody has ever done before, even though it does have a slight William Castle feel about it. Four Star says Double Door is a hidden gem of early Universal horror films. I'm not sure if that's in the box set or not. Florian says, reminds me of the Tingler in the cinema scene. Yeah, the Tingler is great fun to watch as well. I did take a copy of the Tingler to an op shop because I realized I had it also on a Blu-ray. Adam says, I remember the first time I saw the Werewolf Minute or whatever it's called in The Beast Must Die. It must have been 10. Yeah, that'd play well to a 10-year-old. The Werewolf Minute, and any of those kind of gimmicky things. Like 13 is a 13 Ghosts where you put the glasses on, you can see the ghosts using the red or the green filter. I've actually done that, and it's a lot of fun to do. And you can see the ghosts quite clearly. And here's me sitting on my couch, just going between the two sides of my 3D glasses. I'm there for that. I don't think 3D movies particularly work. A lot of people have said this, and particularly people in the industry. Remember about 10 or 12 years ago, where everything came out in 3D. All your big blockbusters came out in 3D. And I remember watching one of the Marvel tentpole movies. It may have been an Avengers film in 3D. And it was kind of groovy, but it didn't add enough to the film for me to think it was worth it, because I had to pay extra. If you haven't brought them with you, you got to bring the glass. You got to buy the glasses. It was a gimmick that had a technological moment where it became possible to do it, but I'm still not convinced that it was worth the effort. I would rather that money go into the story and the special effects and the actors and all the other stuff, rather than trying to get Black Panther to jump out at you. The old school 3D movies, we can just accept them and have fun with them. But I don't know that 3D offers enough elaboration of storytelling, particularly visual storytelling, to be more than just a facile gimmick. Forsyth, I think it was the 3D Captain America movie. It may well have been. I remember there was a Shield helicarrier in it. Adam says all the current generation of 3D was heavily bumped up prices. Yeah, it is a cash grab. And there are a lot of movies I love going to the cinema to see. In fact, I'm going to see the 1970s movie Messiah of Evil at the Astor, because Cinemaniacs are doing a showing of that on the 25th. And I love doing that. Sitting down in the cinema with a whole bunch of dedicated film buffs to watch an obscure 1970s horror film is a lot of fun. And you get a talk by somebody who knows the film well before the movie. D. Lee says, I got a copy of Big Hero 6 in the charity shop yesterday and saw it when I got home. It was entertaining enough, but not a keeper. Yeah, I saw that, and I'm not sure you and I are the audience for it. I think it's a kids' movie. Speaking of kids, hello, Luna. She's back again. She's very persistent, aren't you? But she was up here yesterday and had a lot of cuddles while I was trying to edit something. But yeah, the other thing too is if you haven't watched a travel video, I'd like you to on the travel channel, because I put a lot of effort into it, and I'm trying to do something else with the visual storytelling on the trip itself, and I want to find out whether that works. Friday says, but think about the jobs created for men with a bat and ball on a piece of elastic and 3D cracks. Looking at you, House of Wax. Yeah, House of Wax kind of works for that. But yeah, there's not enough extra in that. Though, having said that, if they did a 3D movie version of the astronauts on Artemis II to bring things around again, I'd be sorely tempted to go and see that on 3D. And I love the fact that the whole journey of Artemis II is a special effects movie with real things instead of special effects. In a sense, people floating around the capsule and a jar of Nutella. And the other thing too is they do get some gravity effects as they go around the moon. And the gravity is very subtle. And they also wanted to measure when they're away from the pull of Earth's gravity and getting a slight gravity draw from the moon. And they had a thing called Rise, which is basically a plush toy, a little round plush toy with a face. And Rise would move whenever there were gravity effects on the spaceship. And they could use Rise as a scientific measuring device to measure if they were getting some gravity effects from the moon, because it would drift to the wall closest to the moon. Hello. She's jumped up on my computer, which means, Luna, you want to come down? No. Sometimes that means she wants to cuddle, but not always. Ralph says, I only just saw Messiah of Evil thanks to Shadow. I hope it doesn't go away or get lost in consolidation. Yeah. And Adam says, House of Wax, when he jumped in the foreground in silhouette, was a great use of 3D and genuine shot. Him being Charles Bronson, yeah. Let me see. Hello, Looney. Come here. I got you. Ah! I got her. Come on. Good girl. Nope, she doesn't want to cuddle. Franny says, I love someone to do a Cthulhu Mythos story where they filmed in 2D but all the Mythos monsters are in 3D because of their extra dimensions. It could be done. Unfortunately, somebody probably do it with AI. But yeah, all things are possible now. There's that stupid bit of video where they had Tom Cruise fighting with some other actor, and it was all done as AI. Studios really want to get rid of the human factor, don't they? Forsale says there was a 3D movie about the space shuttle made in 2002. I saw it on the big screen. Cool. What dirty word did I say, Adam? Rise and Christina's here with her 5th and 6th crew members on integrity. And the fact that they named it integrity sends a political message as well. When there's a government that doesn't have any integrity, calling a spaceship integrity is an act of resistance. Yeah, I did say the dirty word AI. But yeah, just watching that footage from Integrity, Artemis II, and for me, that just seeing them start the re-entry on a live stream and seeing the fact that the curvature of the Earth was diminishing as they got closer, and the higher clouds were taking on three-dimensional shapes, blew my mind. I don't think I've seen anything in a movie lately that blew me away so much, except maybe the jam session in Sinners. That's probably the last time I felt the way I felt watching that re-entry. D. Lee says, I wonder if the moon conspiracy theorists are going to say the whole thing was a plot by the makers of Nutella. Whatever they say, they've got no credibility. Very existential when people go off in real deep space. Yeah, it's amazing how profoundly eloquent the crew were about their experiences. I mean, it feels like they sent poets into space. They've been eloquent. They've been able to put their feelings into words and convey them very well. And they just seem to be having so much fun up there as well. They're as isolated as human beings can be, and yet they're having fun. They're bonding with their friends. They're having a moment of compassion by naming one of the craters Carol after the deceased wife of the crew member. There's just so much love and the best of us in that mission. Does this mean that flat earthers will boycott Nutella? I don't know. I don't care what they do. I think they're people who can't appreciate the guts it takes to go that far away and be that alone and do things that have never been done in human history. If they think that was fate, that reflects on them infinitely more than it does on the people who did the bold thing. I mean, I was there for the Apollo missions. I was there for the whole lot. I was there for Skylab and the space shuttles. I saw people die in space, particularly as Challenger disaster and things like that. I know that it takes a lot of guts to sit on a fucking rocket and go into space and basically put your ass beside an explosion. Amazing stuff. We're living in extraordinary times in so many ways, and people really felt a moment when that amazing time was something positive, was something amazing, was something we hadn't felt or seen or experienced before. And the way they use social media to bring us into what they were experiencing was a generous gift to the world. Yeah, we are doing these things not because they were easy, but because they were hard, which is what Kennedy said about going to the moon. Thank you, Friday. It's it really made my month. Such an amazing achievement. And we got two more. We got another circle around the moon, and then we got a landing in, I think, 2028. Fantastic. Should have happened 30 years ago. Should have happened 50 years ago. But we can't change that. What we can do is realize that there's a moment here which is going to define how this decade is seen, as much as other more negative things are going to define how this decade is seen. This one's going to be the ray of hope, as somebody mentioned in the chat. It's going to be the one that says, we are this. We the best of us is this. We can be this in the future. It is a Star Trek utopian vision of adventure and of finding new things and going new places and becoming something that hadn't been before. And Ralph says, and boy, do we Americans need something positive. I can appreciate that you do. Absolutely, Ralph. It's I've got a lot of love and compassion for people who see through the fog of what's happening and who want the best for everybody. I mean, Ryan Verrill, who does the Disconnected YouTube channel, he did work for Customs and Immigration and quit his job, and he's moved on to other things now because he didn't want to be a part of what's going on there. He put his future on the line to do the right thing. And Ryan's a lovely guy. Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet him when he came to Australia, but he and his wife are fantastic people, and his YouTube channel is one I watch all the time. But we needed that Star Trek moment. We needed that vision of the future that isn't the day after, that isn't Handmaid's Tale, that isn't scary. And we got it. And we want more of them. I mean, there's a hunger for changing the world. There's a hunger for seeing that there are good things and great people in the world. And that the best of us needs to prevail. Adam says, love Ryan, his channel is great. I agree. Ryan's channel is fantastic. D. Lee says, it was seeing the Earth from space for the first time. The 60s that kicked environmentalism into high gear. We need that again. Yeah. We're all one community. We're all one species. We're all one planet. We're all incredible. The universe doesn't do us very often. It doesn't do creatures like us very often. There's no evidence it's ever been done, but there will be. We are extraordinary, and we should continue to be extraordinary. Adam says, you want positive vibes, man, check out The Disconnected. Absolutely. I will always support Ryan in what he does. I think he's fantastic. I like going into the chat when he's live streaming and just grooving with the people there. Unfortunately, it's around the time I record video, so Ryan's channel cuts into my recording time. But yeah, he is a good person. Those positive vibes are important, and we need to share them and we need to be them. We need to embody the vibe that we got from Artemis II. But guess what, people? We really must knock that naughty clock that says it's time to go. It goes so fast. Our time has passed, and we must end our show. Thank you to everybody for being here. Thank you to everybody who joined me in my birthday week. I really appreciate that. And we had a good chat. We haven't talked about movies, but we had a good chat. We had a good time. We joined hands across the planet, and you got to love that. So anyway, everyone take care of yourselves. I'm going to have a great time. Thank you, Franny. I'm going to have a great time this week. Got family stuff. Going to be getting calls and messages from all around the planet. It's going to be terrific. So look after yourselves, okay? Take care. And I'll catch you in the next one. And